We're live, Umi.
Oh, hi everybody.
What's going on, y'all? How y'all doing? We at PhillyCam promoting Indigenous Peoples Day celebration with my man Brujo. Say peace.
Peace.
All right, this is our YouTube channel. We just
Oh
letting
yeah.
him know, you know.
Hello. Yeah, if you wanna have it on live, you can have it on live too on your channel. Just figure out where you wanna put your phone.
Oh, okay. Well, you know what? Let's see. Let me turn it upside down. Let me rotate for a second.
Yeah.
So they said we can leave it live. Oh, all right. They want us to do it like that. So
Yeah,
they
you
said
can.
we can leave it live, y'all. So I'm gonna leave it like this, and we're gonna see how it go for the next half hour or so.
Yeah, you forgot your stick. I don't have. We used to have a stick here.
Yeah, I don't got no stick, but that good right there. You don't mind, do you?
No,
Well,
no,
no,
no.
that's me on all the time, and
You can turn it when
okay,
you
yeah, no,
want.
that's
Yeah, we can.
All right, let me check the time. We have around 4 minutes to go on live. All this is gonna be a live, 100%. So
That's funny.
we'll be happy.
and pull it back up.
Okay, y'all, my bad. Okay, so it's
That's what
Philly
you are
Cam.
today. You see? That's what
Please
you are.
introduce yourself.
My name is Brujo de la Mancha from Mexico City.
All right, and we'll get into some more as a part of
Yeah,
the show.
yeah, soon in like 3 more minutes.
All right, cool. So we're just gonna leave it live for y'all, and we're gonna
Yeah, we start exactly at 1 o'clock, respecting other people's time on the show. They have a pre-record, you know,
Oh, yeah.
you know.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right, cool.
So this is the more live you can get before anything happens. Behind the scenes.
Look, nah, I'm just, okay.
Just stop.
We playing around, y'all, but there we go. I'll just hold it and move it around.
Yeah, you try to have the microphone a little bit closer too, so you don't have to like kind of talk louder and you get more tighter.
Okay.
So it's more closer. You have the microphone, less energy. Just
Okay.
and um, mic three and okay, and this is mic
Two.
two.
Yes, this is true. Well, hope I won't need my glasses for anything.
I don't think we need. Peace, everybody. How y'all doing? So we are on Philly Cam, WPP 106.5 FM. If you're interested in tuning in, Philadelphia, that is, phillycam.org if you're online. And we just going to sit here for the next hour or so and let y'all listen in and check us out as we do this show with my man. So we'll introduce everybody as we go along. And yeah, it's going to be a little low because first we in the studio and then second the phone is kind of far away from us. So y'all going to have to bear with us. Turn your system up, I guess.
It will also be available after this. We'll be able to stream it on.
Yeah,
so that
yeah,
people
yeah.
will be
Then I'll be
hear
able
the
to
whole
bring it up.
conversation then.
Okay?
Yeah.
Cool.
And thank you for those who are watching right now. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, that's what's up. 16 views already. Thank you very much. Oh man, well it's about my mom, not about me, y'all. So we're gonna keep it going. It's about this indigenous education and development, about sharing our culture, our history. But then hey,
10 seconds. Hello everyone, thank you so much to be listening us wherever you are. Technology is great. You can listen us through the internet as well on FM 106.5. Center City of Philadelphia as well, South of New Jersey. You are listening Nicatlaca with Brujo de la Mancha every Thursday 1 to 2 p.m. Nicatlaca means the people from here with the same face, the same looking, the brothers, sisters of the whole American continent so-called now. Well, Nicatlaca is going to talk today about something that sometimes people mark on the calendars, but they forget about the calendars, and it should be not just a month, it should be realization time. We're going to talk about indigenous celebrations around Philadelphia, around United States, around wherever you are. Indigenous of this continent should get together around this month and to talk about their experience and their lives and whatever else they have been going through to around 500 years of colonization to different parts of the continent. So we're gonna be here as two special guests today. Philadelphia neighbors. I mean, no Lenape, like everybody think about it. You know, people like. I mean, my experience living in Philadelphia, people said to me, "Hey, what is the Native American neighborhood?" I said, "Oh, okay. Well, we have to kind of educate people to figure out why we don't have a Native American neighborhood or things like that. But we have Native people from different backgrounds, different areas, the northern Native Americans, and as well from the whole continent now living in Philadelphia. So the celebration we will have next week in October 7, I mean this weekend, sorry, October 7, 2018 at Barton Gardens, 10 to 4 p.m. and it's going to be there. It's open to the public, it's free. To come in and see the different activities. It's going to be some small charge for some other little things, but not a lot. So if you want to have a little bit horse ride, yeah, that one you may have a little bit extra charge. But whatever else come around, this Sunday, October 7, 2018, at the Barton Gardens, it's open and free for the community. It's going to be the 8th annual celebration of Philadelphia Indigenous Day celebration in Philadelphia as well. Something else will happen in October 12 or 13. Other people is organizing something too. The idea is to celebrate as much we could about the diversity of Native people living in the city of Philadelphia. Well, so we leave you with a little bit music. We return in a second. You are listening WPPMLP, People Powered Media, 106.5 FM, Center City of Philadelphia, as well on the internet at PhillyCam.org and all the media. We have Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram as a PhillyCam.org. We return with you in less than a minute. We are a special guests, two amazing, interesting people, which are families, and they will talk to you something very interesting. So we return here in less than a minute in PhillyCam.org. So yeah, you can talk about anything else now. Most of the time, I say the name of the person when introduced, but sometimes I want to create a little bit, outside people is listening. Who's gonna be the person today? Who's gonna be like, because sometimes I have, different people, whatever, different mix, different backgrounds, and I always let them to like. When I see you, not the same way how you see yourself, and
Right.
you introduce yourself, and
That work for us?
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, like, okay. Okay, we are here again and live on PhillyCam.org. And well, so in a lot of different parts of United States, different months, they have different type of celebrations. They have the month for this type of diversity people. They have this other month to include these other people that came from very far away. But yes, we have a month. I don't know exactly which days run and who really celebrate and everything, but we have the month of the Native American people in United States. At least we have a month, right? I mean, after be living here for so many centuries, we get to have a month, and sometimes we have a day. Depends how you want to see it about this coming October Columbus Day celebration. For some people, it's a celebration. For other people, it's a different point of view, everything. But today, here on PhillyCam.org, we're going to talk about the festivity we have in Philadelphia, local people in Philadelphia who are native indigenous people and have the struggle of the now so-called United States country. Because as I said, we have natives from other part of the continent. They have a different struggles. But let's listen from first hand on the land of the free and whatever else. And the land, I remember when I was childhood, somebody said the land of the hamburgers, the hot dogs, and the pancakes.
Capitalism at its finest.
Yeah, so let's start our show, and we have, okay, let's be what some people forget about it and the Europeans remove from us, and it's not to be just cliche, but ladies first.
Definitely.
Yes, well, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Renee Sanders, also known as Red Silver Fox Thunderbird. And I'm here with my son, Tavis Sanders, Red-tailed Fox. And we are we have our organization, which is Indeed, or ND now.
ND now, correct.
We had to change it. But it's Indigenous education, where we are educating the public about the omitted history of many of many Native people here in the United States. Um, Many of them who may have had a darker complexion, where our story got written out of history. And so we are here to tell that story, to get that story out there so that people can understand our plight and understand our position. We're not here to diminish anyone else's history, but again, to add to the history what is missing in our history books, so that everyone can have a better understanding about what was going on here in the United States, especially as the Europeans started arriving, and what was happening to the indigenous people here that were living here in the United States. I'm going to now pass it on to my son, where he can give a better description.
Well, we can't do too much better than, having our elders. And of course, I'm going to always, my mom is the best. But yeah, so Indigenous education, we started it about 10 years ago. And our main focus was to educate the public of the omitted history of indigenous peoples of the Americas. However, particularly from southeastern United States, which is where our lineage comes from, our ancestry comes from. And unfortunately, because of colonialism and the multiple nations that were trying to colonize, this continent, our history has been broken down. And, language differences and things of that nature. The English being the colonial superpower here in the United States right now, it takes away from 200 years of European conflict between indigenous populations in the southeastern portions of the United States, which is, South Carolina, Virginia, North Carolina, Florida, those Georgia, those regions now, called now. And so our interest was to start to open up the public of the reality of a Negroid stock of indigenous peoples also inhabiting the United States, and the
before
before colonization, reality that Christopher Columbus never even touched mainland United States. So that's another topic for discussion and propaganda. But to educate the public of our, indigenous heritage and our ancestry, and to start to regain some control over our culture, our history, and to start to educate the future generations of our rich history without having colonialist ideas
and racist ideas.
and
also.
racist ideas. Educate our youth.
Yeah, it's a interesting topic when we start looking up and open it, and more topics come out from the main topic. You start talking about education and all that, because yeah, I mean, like the same idea as Mexicans. When the Mexicans come to here through immigration, they kind of forget on the head who they are and becomes to be the Hispanic and Latinos. And a lot of these people, they don't even speak Spanish because they're natives from the small towns.
Mhm.
They don't even went to Mexico City. They came straight to United States, so they learned the native language, the English, broken English, and broken Spanish. So the same idea of colonization is still very present in all different native populations in many ways. For example, it was a little while ago I interviewed younger women from Guatemala. And my idea was to interview her as an indigenous person, but she keeps saying I'm Hispanic and Latino, I'm Hispanic and Latino.
Mhm.
So when we talk about that and we come to this country and people like you have an organization yourselves and everything, you say, oh, look at these are neighbors. And then the conflict starts again. And then we have to re-educate other people, re-educate ourselves. So that's the idea of the celebration that has been going in Philadelphia for 8 years, because it's beautiful to have a powwow that represent your own maybe cultural background, your own cultural idea, but we cannot really divide or separate everybody else when everybody else getting attacked by the same control situation. Everybody get, basically in other words, everybody get smacked with the same stick as a neighbors. So
Mhm.
that's my point of view when this type of celebration. So, people like you here in Philadelphia, they are focusing and doing this, is because the city of Philadelphia has been lacking on many type of services or agencies or organizations for around close to 20 years. The
Hmm.
people, for many other situations that happen, and also as a neighbors, different types of neighbors internally, we have our situations.
Yes, we do.
So that create
Yes.
another conflict into the plate
Hmm.
and things like that. Well, yeah.
Well, and again, well, go ahead, you first.
Well, no, I was just thinking about just the different cultures. And one thing is that when the Europeans arriving, we had to realize that when they were arriving to thousands of different cultures. And so even when we start speaking about our culture or regaining our culture, is every area was different.
Hmm.
Like you said, the languages were different. And so we were all these were all different things. So it was very easy for the divide and conquer, and that divide and conquer is still in place
Yeah.
today. And so that is one thing that we really have to get around is once we realize that we are all one people. And if we could really get that message through to people that that it isn't about divide and conquer, it is not about dividing up one brown person from another brown person. We're all the same. We're in this together, and that was what our point was, is to bring this education to the forefront so that people will know what the truth was and what the truth is. And then you can figure out after that, okay, now where do I go from here? Because now I have a firm foundation. But right now, yeah, our history and the history that is told in the United States is not a firm foundation.
Right. And actually, I guess I would like to say thank you, for the work and dedication that you put into Indigenous Peoples Day, because it also gives us an opportunity to share, to learn, and to participate as a collective unit, in something that we can build upon so that we won't have those external forces, to come in and dominate something that we can create amongst ourselves as indigenous communities worldwide. And just like you said, we have a couple other indigenous celebrations happening this month in the city of Philadelphia. And just like you said, it's not about just one event, but it's about the collective whole of us getting together where we can, the best way that we can, and to then share with the public, most of whom are uneducated about each one of us or all of us as a collective unit with respects to indigenousness, and to start to educate those youth in our community. We're here in Philadelphia, so it's a lot more of what's the word I'm looking for? It's a whole lot more people here, so there's a lot more youth
Populated.
to grab hold to start to teach them about history from a, a wider perspective. For us, it's important for us to learn what the United States, what colonialism is teaching to the world and teaching its populace. However, we have to understand that as a part of the populace that this colonial system is occupying, we have to not only acknowledge what they're doing, but also start to grab hold to those things that we can advance as indigenous peoples internally and start to establish organizations, rule, order, and utilizing law as a way to move us forward for generations. Not looking for a home run today or tomorrow, but looking to get my daughter, my children on first base so that they can have a better opportunity to be home under a self-identifying, self-determining, and autonomous, institution. Us being in charge of who we are again, of our land again.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people is doing it in different, parts of United States, different cultural groups. They move from another places. They have their own organizations, buildings, and all that kind of
Hmm.
stuff. So why not neighbors, especially in Philadelphia, they doesn't have anyone now, anything like that. Keep working on that. So that's a wonderful idea. So let's go take a little bit break. But everybody who's listening, also watching on us now through this Facebook Live, this is kind of announcing this October 7th, we have a Philadelphia Indigenous Day in Philadelphia. It's going to be at Barton Gardens, 10 to 4 p.m. Everybody's welcome, and it's going to be the 8th year that we have more coming together as a different neighbors on the city of Philadelphia to put all these people's festivities and different interactions, at least for one day. Now other people is doing it for a couple days here and there. It's amazing. More people should be doing something because everybody should have the right to celebrate who they are, as an indigenous, whatever they are, and have their own understanding of things like that. But yeah, so you're listening WPPMLP, People Powered Media, 106.5 FM in the center city of Philadelphia. We'll have a little bit break with some music, and we'll return with you for a little bit more here on PhillyCam.org. So now that we talk a little bit that, I would like to talk about you, what you do in your life. So we break the stereotypes. So
Go to him.
I mean, whoever want to talk, but sometimes I do that because a lot of people sometimes have the idea that if you don't do something native, that kind of native. I don't know if you understand me what I try to say.
I do.
Yeah, like for example, on the Mexican things like the dancers, who's the more dancer or something else like that. And so like, I mean, if everybody was dancing all the time, how they build these other things, how they discover the medicine, how so each different neighbor group or different whatever coordinations at that time, not everybody was doing the same thing. It doesn't, so because sometimes last year people were sending me questions like, how should come the rest of the celebration? Come however you want to come and dress.
Right.
The idea is for you to come and celebrate. If you don't have your neighbor clothes, I mean, that doesn't make you really neighbor.
Right.
Right, the clothes don't make you native, right?
Yeah. So you can go and buy something at a store for like the Halloween times that look like a neighbor. If you don't, and I haven't seen some people that totally get that ideas, and get clothing like that and some other type.
Yeah, it's about the respect, not necessarily what you look like or how you dress.
Yeah, and to break the stereotypes from the Hollywood thing.
Oh, yes.
You
Yes.
know.
Okay.
And, yeah, so we can talk about that. And the idea is to announce before I come back, after I come back, about the celebration, so whoever is listening, because we never know who's listening here and there, changing it. So.
Right.
Right.
You want to mention it often.
Right, cool.
Yeah.
Yep, and if y'all having a hard time hearing us, y'all can go to WPPM 106.5 FM. You can search it online too, right?
Yeah.
You can go online and you go to PhillyCam.org and check us out. And appreciate y'all listening in. Again, Indigenous Peoples Day celebration 2018 on October 7th at Bartram Gardens from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. 4 p.m., excuse me. Grand entry starts at noon, and we are, free, most things free. Dream catcher tutorial, face painting, kayaking, botanical gardens tour. You'll be paying for the horseback riding.
Music.
We're gonna have some music. We're gonna have some other dances. So it's going to be a beautiful time working with indigenous peoples from the community and other communities. And, thanks for allowing us to spend some time with y'all and share our interview today. We're going to get back to it, and I hope y'all enjoying. Hey, you know what? We are on break. Let's see here. Cool.
30 seconds.
Okay.
Hello everybody, we are here live at the PhillyCam Studios. We just finished listening John Spirit with the Fancy Fan Action Power 2012. Well, so we were talking about here in Philadelphia, we will have a neighbor celebration this Sunday October 7, 2018 at Barton Gardens. Going to be the Philadelphia Indigenous Day, 8 year happening. We will have different activities. We will have face painting, horse riding, artists, musicians, talks, different other community members talking about whatever they do, whoever they are, because sometimes people have this idea the neighbor's like a Hollywood or like kind of like the books, right? And we don't have to think about that all the time because different neighbor groups, different populations. Not everybody was just a dancer. Like a lot of times on the Mexican culture, everybody wanna be a Mexica dancer, and that's cool. But we have many type of medicine men. We have the architecture people too. We have the farming people. We have the clothing people. So everybody was doing different stuff before. That idea that kind of Hollywood give to us, the neighbors were just hunters. Yeah, I mean it's true. But not everybody was just a hunter. So it doesn't make any sense. Everybody was hunting. Who's going to be making the tools to be hunting too? So sometimes wasn't a special person who make it and trade it for the same reason. So the stereotypes that we live as a Native Americans, not just in United States, but the whole continent has dividing us, changing our perspective as a humans. Other cultures see us totally different too. Like for example, on the Aztec culture, it's kind of like a joke sometimes. If you do something wrong, they're going to take your heart out because that was the human sacrifice. The big talk about with the Spanish people when they came in. That was how, because if Columbus did not put the food in United States now, and they believe that they put the food in, the king or queen from Spain never put the food in Mexico to see whatever the monsters or whatever all the kind of ideas that were spreading to the whole continent to divide us and keep conquering us. So today, here our special guests going to introduce themselves too, talking a little bit who they are, because to be neighbor, as we were describing, doesn't mean you have to be playing the drum all the time or to have a feather on the hair all the time or try to be very spiritual too in some way and somehow, because even there were clowns before too, there were theaters, and there were bad people too. That doesn't mean like so. Sometimes we create these fairy tales, which are okay, but all humans, all societies, all cultural groups, they have good and bad people.
That's
So yeah.
Well, when you were talking about the tales, well, those fanciful tales were really some that the Europeans had to create in order to bring people here to populate this landmass here. So they had to create these fanciful stories because why would anybody come here to a barren land that they could do that? So they had to create these stories. So they created the stories about all these, they created false things about the native people, about the things that they could do. And like you were saying, the sacrifices, but there was also some things where they exaggerated stories again, just so that they could bring people here so that they could start populating this landmass.
Yeah, so with that, let me just share a little bit of who we are and what we do in our spare time when, we're not dressed up as indigenous peoples with our feathers up, right? So let's start with my mother, always. My mother is an educator here in Philadelphia and in the Atlantic Public School System for 35 years.
Oh wow.
Yeah, about 35 to 40 years. Public school teacher in music and history
And reading.
and reading, right? And so I grew up underneath a teacher, and I have to show respects for our chief, my father, her husband, Black Hawk Thunderbird. He's also was a teacher. So my mother and my father were public school teachers here in Philadelphia and in Atlanta.
Uncle.
My uncle was a public school teacher
Your
for
grandfather.
45 years, right? My
Grandfather.
grandfather.
Who will think about that? You see what I mean when you start
Yeah.
like digging things? It's like, oh yeah, we were the neighbors. We had drums.
Yeah, well, we were the neighbors that taught.
Okay.
Yeah. So we were educators. Everyone in my family, from my great grandparents down,
Wow,
were
it's
teachers.
amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's education is very something that's very prevalent, just as a part of our family dynamic, and so always recognizing our native ancestry here, being from this continent, being able to trace our family to 1600s and before. So, that was also always something prevalent as a part of our family dynamics and history. However, as a part of my development, wanting to do, wanting to be respected as an indigenous individual and as an indigenous family, my mother, taking my mother and my father's teachings and moving it into law and politics.
Okay.
And so my interest is in law and politics and the development of indigenous peoples from that area. However, recognizing that as a people, socially change comes slowly, even for us as native and indigenous peoples. We established Indigenous Education, which is a nonprofit that we talked about. My mother's name is Renee Sanders, also known as Red Silver Fox. I'm Tavis Sanders, also known as Red Tail Hawk. And through our nonprofit, Indigenous Education, we promote indigenous information, indigenous history, and self-awareness. And so while through our colonial lifestyles, we were always progressive and interested in education. As far as our indigenousness is concerned, our interest is now in advancing that education through curriculum-based education, and then again, developing communications between the colonial system and institutions that we as indigenous peoples can begin to set up to advance our promotion and our, self-identification.
That's interesting. That's very amazing because, as I said, a lot of people sometimes in Philadelphia they have the idea that neighbors are not here, but now talking, we have neighbors teaching on the schools, so it's another different level to just be the neighbor who you supposedly where should have a neighborhood as we were talking before, or you should be maybe coming out from a reservation or be on that kind of situation. When you are part of the society again, and a different society that was created on top of something that was already, and you try to be more than that society and contributions you want to give more to that society, it's a challenge because you fighting through the stereotypes, to the colonial placement on you, and then you try to be who you are.
Right.
Yes, I was going to say one thing that people have to realize is that the indigenous people who are part of the Bureau of Indian Affairs or recognized Indians, they are not the only indigenous people here in the United States. That is one big problem, well, especially here in Pennsylvania, because Pennsylvania doesn't have any recognized tribes or, recognized tribes. Now, there are, of course, thousands of people who are existing in Pennsylvania as indigenous people, Native American people that have their tribes and their affiliations, but none of them are recognized by the United States. But what we need to realize is that just because they are not recognized does not mean that they do not exist. And people exist all around the United States that are indigenous, that are Native American, that have this heritage, that are not recognized by the United States. But again, like you said, I'm not recognized by the United States, but I'm sitting right here in front of you. I am a real live person. And so those are things that we have to realize, that how this system has been set up, and again, that's what we are doing to educate people about these things so that they can know that these other systems that are out there, that they exist, and they need to be aware of those things.
Yeah, right. Well, as a part of indigenousness has been growing throughout the world community, especially over the last 20 years. Where 20 years ago were fighting for us to have a day. And so now because of yourself and other individuals here in Philadelphia, we have a day to acknowledge each other, which is something that we should be doing on, and those are the things that's going to help us as indigenous peoples, for us to dismiss external and colonial forces and to build between indigenous communities, respecting and honor our culture, our shared history, and our history that will allow us to learn more about the culture and about the, 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 the beautiful things that make us who we are. You know, we play ball. You know, one of the things that, as indigenous peoples from southeastern United States, one of the things that they talked about us all the time was our way of rhythm and rhyme and our ball playing skills. You know, and if you are in the United States or if you watch basketball, you know, that's something that still, as an indigenous peoples here in America, you know, our people, that's what we do. We rhyme and we play ball. You know, so certain things that are stereotypical, you know, from are actually cultural and ethnic markers.
Yes, that statement that you were just talking about, where it was saying that we were good ball players and that good at rhythm and rhyming, this is something that they have in, that is in the history books,
Mhm.
talking about the indigenous people of Southeastern United States. So they state these things. But again, if those things aren't brought out in the history books, how will we even know those things?
And we also, if you don't mind, I just wanted to acknowledge that we also have to acknowledge the the falsehoods that colonialism will imprint into history in order to seem dominant.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, one of the things that, as a part of indigenous education and the information that we are producing, my mother wrote two books, revealing America's dark-skinned past, which is
Oh, okay.
available on Amazon. So,
What's the name of the book again?
revealing America's dark-skinned past,
All right.
Volume One and Volume Two.
Okay.
And in Volume Two, we speak with respects to how the colonizer um, basically rewrote Mayan history. You know, and that 98% of mainstream history that we are aware of, as far as the Mayan people are concerned, was written by a Caucasian that actually went to jail for his crimes against the Mayan people. So we have to open ourselves up and acknowledge that we have to re-educate ourselves about our history and about other indigenous people's history, because from my perspective, the Mayans may have had various reasons for taking a heart out. They might have just been taking a heart out of a deer and they replaced it with people because they wanted to seem more dominant. I'm not sure, I'm not a part of that culture, but I have to acknowledge that I have to question the history that is being taught to me by mainstream society, because it is for their benefit and not for in benefit of the indigenous peoples that inhabited that region.
And again, remember the fanciful stories.
The fantasy, yeah. Shangri-La.
Okay, everybody, you're listening WPPMLP, People Powered Media, 106.5 FM, and the center city of Philadelphia, as well as southern New Jersey. You can visit our website, WPPMFM.org, PhillyCam.org/radio. We are on the internet, on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram as a PhillyCam. We are independent, non-commercial radio, so everything you are listening here, we are free to say kind of whatever we want. So we will say we love you. We hope to see you on October 7, 2018 at Barton Gardens to celebrate the diversity of indigenous people living in Philadelphia. 10 to 4 p.m. Main entries, or sorry, grand entries at noon. So if you want to come and participate, just show up. You don't have to come dressed as a native. You can just show up and participate, be there present, make more presence with other people who are native, mix it, especially with the Latino people, the Spanish speakers, that we are mixed with so many things too, and of course the Northern Native Americans too. And sometimes that creates some conflict between people too and things like that. But in some way and somehow, when you go into a new place and you see something new, you get attracted to the diversity of people. So native people too were like, all right, who are these people? Where are you coming from? We want to know about you. So it was not always the bad people who came to this continent. There were good people too. But of course, when power is in front of you, people will do everything else to try to keep some power on. going back to talking about South America with the Mayans and everything, they said, oh, that disappeared. Well, why you still seeing people? I mean, the structure maybe as a society, as a nation at that time collapsed, but the people are still around. So that stereotypes of the information sometimes confuse more us. And yeah, maybe in Mexico they did some heart surgeries. The people maybe don't understand it, but they have, you know how you put, the doctors have these fake plastic human organs for people to see it, but the Aztec people used to make clay parts too, so they can see and understanding how the body works inside. So they already were doing autopsies and already were doing other things. The people at that time they were like, "What are you doing?" Because they were not with the standard stereotype of Christian beliefs. So as soon was not Christian belief, you were against their beliefs and they're going to attack you, and that was the whole confusions we have and the whole continent. So even the same team as Mexican, now we suffer with immigration to come to United States just to travel or to live or to whatever else. We have the Native Indigenous Constitution created by the United States where they talk about that, but they don't respect it with the neighbors on this continent. And if you allow the neighbors to travel back and forth, pretty sure we won't have an immigration problem because they will just going back and follow the normal traditional paths that they did before the Europeans came.
Thousands of years. And it actually would make a lot of money for the United States too. But, we talking about a cultural issue now, with racism more than, what would make economic sense. However, like you said, as indigenous peoples, if we start to consider things in that, from that perspective and recognize the opportunity that we have as a people to establish institutions that will promote, for our children. And again, we're doing this to begin to promote Indigenous Peoples Day celebration here in Philadelphia on October 7th, 2018, from 10 a.m. from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m.
Yeah, 10 to 4 p.m.
Yeah, and the reason to, to do this for this one day is for us to come together, see that different cultures can promote and we can acknowledge each other and enjoy each other's company and learn and grow. And if we can do this, then we can begin to communicate, share, and collectively come together so that we can have more political power here, as a people, and then, there's a whole lot of, that opens up a lot of things for us as indigenous peoples, no matter what, colonial system might be occupying the land at that particular time.
All right, let's take a little bit break. This song, we will return again in a couple minutes. I don't have the name of this kid, but this kid is amazing. You can find it on YouTube as 9 years old rocks hand drum. Let's listen. This younger person that will have a great future as a musician. So as I said again, I don't have the name, but you can Google it on YouTube as a 9-year-old rocks hand drum.
There's his name right there.
Oh, all right. They added before it wasn't.
Right. As soon as you turn it on, his name came up.
All right, y'all, my bad. Obviously, I don't have a phone holder to hold my phone. And as far as the audio, we're in the studio and we hooked up to other mics. So what you can do is go to PhillyCam.org and you can listen in. You can go to WPPM 106.5 FM and check us out online. And, we hope that y'all enjoying the show today. We got a few more minutes. And so, we hoping that y'all are getting some information from us. Definitely are learning some things, about other indigenous cultures. And thanks for tuning in, y'all. Appreciate it.
That little boy has a voice on him. He just did a little growl. I was like, whoa, check him out.
Yeah, when I hear it the first time, I was like, wow, he's amazing.
Listen to him. Yeah.
Like I said, my mother's a musician. So,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah, yeah. I was a music teacher. Yeah, that's my profession.
Well, so we still have like another 15
Oh,
minutes.
we have 15 more minutes.
Oh, okay.
So whatever else you wanna add it,
Yeah, I would like to add a few things if you don't mind.
yeah,
A couple
feel
of books,
free.
couple of shows, promote our website.
Yeah, yeah. However you want to be contacted to, all
Hmm.
that kind of stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, you go ahead, boy.
Yeah,
You know
right.
I enjoyed it,
All right.
especially the children.
Okay, well, we're coming back again into PhillyCam, and guess what? I found the name of the little person here, the little boy. This young man is called Aaron Potts Litender. It's a 9 years old singer, Aaron Potts Litender. You can find it just his video as a 9 years old rocks hand drum on YouTube. Well, we are going to try to have more information for you before we end up here. This show is called Nika Tlaka. Nika means here, Tlaka means like face, facial features, kind of like you other personal ID. Nika Tlaka means from the Nahuatl language, one of those and another made language from the Native American continent. So sometimes when you listen Apache, Navajo, Chochone, all the things are familiar with the Nahuatl language, with the Mexica people, the Tlaxcalan people, as you want to call now Mexico, which is Mexico Tenochtitlan. So we are brothers and sisters, and we have been divided by so many different ways of colonization. But we have here in Philadelphia the opportunity again to come together this Sunday, October 7, 2018, at Barton Gardens to celebrate the 8 years of diversity indigenous people living in the city of Philadelphia. As well, other people has getting involved on this by many years, and we have even a bill that went through. uh, it's still a process. We still need to fight, but the state and everything try to recognize Saturday before Columbus Day as the Indigenous Day on the state of Pennsylvania. So this is not just in Philadelphia. We are calling it now Philadelphia Indigenous Day because we are in Philadelphia. But if you are in Pittsburgh, somewhere else in Pennsylvania, and Lancaster, and you want to make another Lancaster Indigenous Day or Pennsylvania Indigenous Days, go ahead. Everybody, we must have to do it. We have to advance. As here our brother was saying, we have to make presence also on the political law state level by many ways, by many how, and always make sure that when you are on that power or you see somebody on that power to question it, to ask it, to push that person, maybe on the bad way. Sometimes you gotta like pinch something, but you gotta make people work and understand that everybody, sometimes as social groups, when somebody gets classified or put in a sticker, everybody get that classification and that sticker at the same time. So if you know somebody who's on the power and is trying to do political stuff with neighbor, help it, but also enforce and make sure you understand it as the benefit for everybody, because sometimes we forget about that little things in life with everything else. So once again, my name is Brujo de la Mancha. You are listening to Nicatlaca every Thursday between 1 to 2 p.m. with different topics about native indigenous people of the whole continent living on the city of Philadelphia. And we're coming back again live here at the studio. We are two special guests to interview today, and they're going to talk about their organization, a little bit more about the festival, and kind of to grab all these so we can move into the next show coming up. So once again, this is Nicatlaka, the people from here with the same face on phillycam.org.
Okay, great. Yeah, thank you. So, yeah, again, our nonprofit is Indigenous Education, and we promote education of indigenous peoples. Right now, we like to inform the public of the two books my mother published, Revealing America's Dark Skin Past, available on Amazon, and I think starting next month they'll be available on all platforms and in Barnes and Noble too. And so that's a positive thing, and y'all could definitely help support. We're a small nonprofit organization, so we only take private funding right now, and so it helps. We also offer educational e-classes, that's online classes on a online platform that we host with the organization called House of Ancestry. It's a genealogy organization. And so we have a virtual internet space that will hold up to 120 people.
Oh,
And so
wow.
we offer classes through our curriculum. And it's right now, who were we, who are we, and how shall we identify? And it's a 6-week curriculum course that we're offering to educate our indigenous populace, specifically of the history pre-colonial period, the history of colonization with the Spanish and the English, a little bit of the French here on mainland United States, and then what the laws and what indigenous peoples have been doing worldwide as a way to start to regain our self-control, over our internal affairs. And so, definitely please visit our website at indedu.org. Again, that's indedu.org. You can email us at indeed.edu@gmail.com. And you can get flyers. You can visit us on Facebook at Indigenous Education. We promote a lot of the books and a lot of our educational classes through that platform. And outside of, yeah, right. And so outside of what PhillyCam and Mind TV airs still here in Philadelphia, you can check our educational videos on YouTube.
All right, yeah.
Yeah, so you can Google my name, Tavis Sanders, or Indigenous Education, and we have about 40 curriculum-based, so it's not just talk, and it's not just conversations, but there are actual lessons and curriculums that will help people to follow along a path to learn more about indigenous peoples from everywhere, and also from here in the southeastern United States. So some of the shows are my mother and I talking about a specific topic, and other shows are more like lessons where you be reading, right, and looking up terms and figuring out, learning history.
All right. Well, that's a good way to do it, because sometimes the educational books doesn't tell you too much, the regular standard books on the school.
Mm-hmm.
As well, when I grew up in Mexico, mostly we learned that we were farmers and hunters.
Right.
Well, we learned we were slaves.
Yeah.
Well, doing farming, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
That's a very heavy topic. But once again, we were talking when we started this radio show. Can you remind to people about the Indigenous Month, the Native Heritage Month?
Mm-hmm.
What is there? What supposedly should be happening?
You want to go with that as a teacher?
Okay, well, the Native American. Well, let's start with the Indigenous Day,
Okay.
because that is what is coming up now, and many states now and cities are now trying to change this Columbus Day over, because we know that Columbus was not the person that we were originally told that he was.
Mm-hmm.
He was a slaver. He was.
He's a brutal military soldier.
Yes. So again, changing the dynamic of the Columbus Day to the Indigenous Day. So that is something that is good, that is going on around the United States. So there are several cities now, and like I said, and Pennsylvania is a state. I don't know, I'm not sure how many states do acknowledge Indigenous Day, but it's growing. And so again, so these things are happening very slowly, but they are happening. The Native American History Month, which is now November, they really took Thanksgiving,
Mm-hmm.
and because there was this celebration of Thanksgiving, so then they decided they want to make all of November Native American History Month, and I guess that is a good month to designate. However, there is not much after that. You have the designation, and that's about it.
And the turkey.
Oh, yes, of course, the turkey.
You must have the turkey, so you name it celebration.
So even the history of Thanksgiving is something that most people don't even know about. And if they knew about the history of Thanksgiving, you probably wouldn't be celebrating it.
Well, I mean, just like Valentine's Day and a whole lot of other colonial holidays. But, and I was going to say that, just like history is fluid and it's up to the society, the culture to promote it, and then you make traditions from it, and then those traditions become a practice, becomes normal practice for the people, and that's what has been cut off by colonization. That's what they specifically did to our people, and I'm sure that practice was worldwide with respects to replacing our traditions and our culture with what was more comfortable for them. However, at the same time, whether it be a month, a day, if we look at the culture of the Americas itself, here in Philadelphia, we have the Mummers Day Parade, and, for most Philadelphians, it's just the Mummers Parade. However, if you get into the history, if you get into the art, if you get into the attire and the representation of the different designs, that's 100% indigenousness. And so as we develop and as we grow and learn who we are as a Negroid indigenous population, we also have to recognize that a lot of our traditions worldwide as indigenous peoples has just been usurped. And so that we recognize that they have taken from us to make theirs greater. And so we have to make sure that we understand that instead of trying to be greater than anyone else, if we continue to just acknowledge who we are and be who we are, we will naturally excel in our culture, our history, and our prosperity will become dominant as indigenous peoples being of that land. Earth will take care of us.
Yeah, and also, well, something I heard too about whatever it's called now, the Native American topic, right? When it was the French and the English people doing whatever they have to do, and where the natives start mixing with Africans and everything else. The time was better to say I'm more like an African, like a black, because if you said a neighbor, you get killed too.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the other thing that sometimes people don't understand that why when you see some people that are very dark, they think right away they're Africans. Wait a minute, not really like that.
There are many dark-skinned people that live on all the continents that are not African, that are dark-skinned, and that is, again, that's just a way to divide and conquer the people, and that was the tactic that they used. They told the Indians, they would tell them one thing: oh, those Africans, their blood is tainted, don't associate with them. And then they would come over to the slaves and they would say, oh, you don't want to associate with those Indians, they're savages, you don't want to do that. So there was a divide and conquer that to keep these two people apart, but they knew what would happen if they didn't keep these two people apart. That they first of all, they would realize that they're the same people, and then they would conquer them. And that was something that they were trying to stop. And so they had to divide and conquer these people so that they would not, so that they could promote what they were doing.
Their colonial system.
Their agenda in another
That's
ways
correct.
and
Yep.
everything else. Well, so we are almost about to finish here. Nicatlaka, people with the same face, and PhillyCam.org. Well, so if you are listening us, thank you very much. Whatever you are listening us, you can listen again us through PhillyCam.org website. They should have some archivals there too. We should have this on live. Coming out soon too, posted in different places. And remember, this Sunday, October 7, 2018, 10 to 4 p.m., Barton Gardens, we have the Philadelphia Indigenous Day. Everybody's welcome, come over and spend a beautiful time with us. So, and also before we let it go, everybody, can you talk about your books again so people want to know more about that?
Okay, well, it's Revealing America's Dark Skin Past is Volume 1 and Volume 2. Volume 1 is basically dealing with the cultures that were here in the Americas before the arrival of the Europeans. And Volume 2 is basically speaking about the Columbus era and what happened during those 10 years when he was coming back and forth.
Oh.
We even referenced, and what's the missionary's name that was arrested for the crimes against the Mayan people?
Lanza?
Lanza?
I do believe that's what his
Okay,
name was.
yeah, and well, that's even referenced in the book. Again, because of indigenous history is American history, and so we have to respect and acknowledge what these colonizers were doing, not just in one particular region of the continent, but as a whole. And so inside the books, we try to inform the reader of not just some of the irregularities between fact and history, but also the irregularities between other indigenous cultures and the history that we're being taught.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so we finished today, and just to say something like that is true. I went to Ohio to the Mound Builders, and they have shells from Mexican Gulf.
Mm-hmm.
So how that
Mm-hmm.
happened? Somebody went down there, or somebody came up and give it or something.
Mm-hmm.
So all this has changed and everything. We still, be proud of that. As I did, we had the celebration, and as well the resolution number 110641, which is the resolution they tried to run in the state of Pennsylvania for the whole Pennsylvania. Vanessa Brown was involved on that one, and other people support that one too from the Pennsylvania state. So we're going to say goodbye with a beautiful song called "We Were All Wounded, a Wounded Knee" by Red Bone. Usually, this song it was not allowed to be played in United States long time ago. It was more famous in Europe because it talked about the last massacre we happened on Wounded Knee.
Okay.
And I said we were all wounded and Wounded Knee because even neighbors from the south of the border go wounded too, because that's when United States becomes to be the empire they are, putting the border they have, going to another places of South America, try to conquer too and everything else. So we were all wounded in the Wounded Knee, and we pay respect to all the neighbor peoples wherever they are. Hope to see everybody on this October 7, 2018 at Barton Gardens, and it's free for everybody. You want to say goodbye to everybody?
Bye. Hope to see you there.
Yes, October 7th from 10 to 4 p.m. Peace. Okay, y'all. Appreciate y'all.
You can probably hold it close in there.
Oh, yeah,
You can
probably
hear.
both. Yeah. We appreciate y'all. We'd like to send our respects and blessings to Brujo. Say peace, Brujo.
Yes, thank you.
All right. Thank y'all for showing respects to other indigenous peoples and allowing us to share with y'all today. Again, October 7th, please come out. We got a lot of stuff going on for y'all. We got some productive things. I know that y'all been asking about self-identifying and things of that nature. So we got some things coming up for y'all. Put it together, dismiss a lot of this falsehoods, and start sharing some real information, and also give people an opportunity to start self-identifying under, our
Who they are.
with us and with others as we build up. So be on the lookout, y'all. We're gonna be doing some great things.
Yes.
See you soon.
Okay, peace.
Peace. Now I gotta figure out how to stop this thing again.
Mute the microphone.
Yeah, right. Anybody know how to stop? Yes.